It started in late December, in a small town tucked beneath a white blanket of snow and silence. Natalie had just returned home from college for winter break. Her parents were away on a business trip, so she had the family house to herself, a spacious, two-story cabin on the edge of the forest. For Natalie, it was meant to be a peaceful retreat. The first few nights were quiet. She binged old movies, cooked late-night ramen, and let the snow build up outside. Her only companion was the occasional hoot of an owl or the crack of settling wood in the fireplace. Until the fourth night. That evening, around 1:12 a.m., Natalie was lying in bed scrolling through her phone when she heard it, 3 slow knocks on the front door. Knock. 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 She froze. The porch light was off, and the motion sensor hadn't triggered. She waited, listening. Nothing. Cautiously, she crept out of bed, grabbing the small flashlight her dad kept in the drawer. The hallway stretched into darkness, but she could see her breath in the cold. She crept toward the stairs. Each wooden step creaked under her weight. Peeking through the curtains beside the door, she saw only her own reflection. No one stood on the porch. No footprints in the snow. Natalie double-checked the locks and turned on the porch light. Still nothing. She chalked it up to nerves and went back to bed. But the next night, it happened again. Same time. Knock. 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 This time, she didn't move. She just stared at her bedroom door, clutching the flashlight. When the knocking stopped, she stayed awake until sunrise. On the sixth night, things escalated. Natalie returned from the store just before sunset. As she pulled into the driveway, she noticed something odd, a single set of footprints in the snow, leading from the tree line to her porch, but not away from it. Her chest tightened. The prints were deep, almost too deep for someone just walking. As if they'd stood there for hours. She raced into the house and locked every door. Every window. She even pushed a chair under the front doorknob. That night, she stayed downstairs, curled up on the couch with a kitchen knife under the blanket. At 1:12 a.m., the knocking came again, but this time it wasn't just on the front door. It was on the back door too. Knock. 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 Then again, at the side window. Tap. Tap. She couldn't see anyone. Every curtain was shut. Every light was off. She felt paralyzed. She tried calling the police, but her phone had no signal, a rare dead zone during storms in the area. Then she heard the creak. A floorboard. Upstairs. Her heart pounded so loud she thought it might give her away. She hadn't been upstairs since she came back in. No one should have been up there. Clutching the flashlight and the knife, she tiptoed toward the staircase, aiming the beam of light upward. She called out, "Who's there?" Silence. Then, another creak. She turned and bolted out the front door, barefoot in the snow. She didn't care. She ran until she reached the neighbor's house a quarter-mile down. Her fingers bled from the cold by the time she banged on their door. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They found the house empty. No signs of forced entry. But there was one unsettling detail the officer noted quietly to his partner, a set of wet boot prints leading down from the attic hatch, which was slightly ajar. Natalie never went back into that house alone again. And to this day, she doesn't know who, or what, was knocking. When Marcus moved into his first apartment, he wasn't expecting much. It was cheap, slightly run down, and on the fourth floor of an aging building in a rough part of the city. But it was his. He had a mattress on the floor, a second-hand TV, and a lock on the door. That was enough, at least, it seemed that way at first. The first incident happened on a rainy Wednesday night. Marcus had just come back from his night shift at the loading dock, exhausted. He dropped his bag on the floor and flopped onto the mattress, the sound of thunder muffled by the walls. He was just about to drift off when he heard something, a soft click. The front door latch. His eyes snapped open. He hadn't locked it. He was sure he had. He got up slowly and crept toward the entryway. The hallway light was still off, but the door was closed. Locked. He turned the bolt just in case and peered through the peephole. Nothing. But as he stepped away, he thought he heard something just outside, slow, steady breathing. He leaned back toward the peephole. Still nothing. He told himself it was just his imagination, or maybe the wind in the hallway vent. But the next night, the real nightmare began. It was past midnight. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled wet. Marcus was brushing his teeth when he heard the creak of the hallway floor just outside his apartment. He froze, toothbrush still in his mouth. Another creak. And another. Whoever it was, they weren't walking, they were shuffling slowly, stopping every few feet. Then the footsteps stopped. Right in front of his door. Marcus silently backed away, heart racing. He turned off the bathroom light and tiptoed to the living room, grabbing the metal rod he kept under the couch for emergencies. The hallway remained quiet for nearly 5 minutes. Just as he started to breathe again, bang! A single, heavy knock on the door. Not loud. Not urgent. Just, firm. Like someone testing to see if he'd answer. Marcus didn't move. He crouched by the door, holding the rod with both hands, staring at the deadbolt. Then he heard it. Scratch. 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 Slow dragging along the wood, like a nail or a coin being scraped down the doorframe. Then came the whisper. Marcus. He jumped back. Someone knew his name. Without thinking, he shouted, "Get the hell out of here. I'm calling the cops." Silence. Then fast footsteps, not away from the door, but down the hallway, quick and heavy. He opened the door just in time to see a figure turn the corner, tall, wearing what looked like a black hoodie, and vanish into the stairwell. The police found no one. No prints. No surveillance footage. They said it was probably a drunk, or someone casing apartments. But Marcus knew better. Because the next night, when he came home late, there was a message carved into his door. Just 5 words. "I know when you sleep." He moved out 3 days later. But every once in a while, even in his new building, he hears footsteps in the hallway. And sometimes, a whisper. Jasmine had always loved the quiet charm of her neighborhood. Tree-lined streets. Neat rows of townhouses. Kids on bikes during the day, and soft porch lights glowing at night. It felt safe, until the woman appeared. It started with a face in the window. Jasmine lived alone. Her bedroom was upstairs, with a view of the backyard. She liked to leave the curtains half open at night, just enough to let in the moonlight. That first night, around 2:30 a.m., she was brushing her hair in front of her vanity mirror when she noticed something odd in the reflection, a face. A pale, female face staring at her from the shadows outside the window. Her heart jumped. She turned around instantly, but no one was there. She rushed to the window and looked out. The backyard was empty. No movement. No sound. No footprints in the dewy grass below. She told herself it was just a trick of the light. Maybe she was tired. Maybe it was the reflection of her own face at a weird angle. But the next night, the woman was there again. Same time. Same window. But this time, the face was closer. Jasmine gasped and stumbled back. The face vanished. She ran downstairs, locked every door again, and slept with the light on. Her heart refused to slow down. On the third night, she set up her phone to record while she slept. The footage the next morning showed nothing unusual, until 2:33 a.m., when the screen suddenly went black for 7 seconds. Then static. And then, the sound of slow, deliberate tapping on the glass. Tap. 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 And a whisper, faint but clear. "Let me in." The voice was wrong. Crooked somehow. It sent shivers down her spine. Jasmine took the recording to the police, but they couldn't explain the blackout or trace the voice. They told her it was probably someone playing a prank, maybe a neighbor. They increased patrols in the area. But it didn't stop. Over the next week, the face showed up every single night. Closer each time. The eyes never blinked. The mouth never moved. Just that pale, staring expression, like a mannequin come to life. Jasmine stopped sleeping. She tried blacking out the window with towels. The next morning, she found all of them torn down, from the outside. Then came the night she woke up choking. Not from fear, from actual pressure on her throat. She clawed at her neck, gasping, and for a split second, in the shadows above her, she saw her. The woman. Inches from her face. But she wasn't outside anymore. She was inside the room. Jasmine screamed and scrambled off the bed. She flipped on every light, opened every door, searched every closet. No one was there. No broken locks. No open windows. And yet, the whisper returned. This time, it came from the closet. "Let me in." Jasmine moved out the next morning. Left everything behind. She now lives in an apartment on the 14th floor of a downtown high-rise. No backyard. No easy access to her windows. She keeps the curtains closed, always. But sometimes, just sometimes, she still hears tapping. It started on a Tuesday afternoon. Leah had just gotten off her shift at the cafe and was scrolling through her notifications on the bus ride home when she noticed something strange: 17 missed calls from an unknown number. No voicemails. No texts. Just repeated calls, all made within a 10-minute window. She stared at the screen, frowning. She didn't answer calls from unknown numbers, especially not in clusters like that. Spam, probably. She blocked the number and thought nothing more of it. But the next day, it happened again. Different number. 17 missed calls. Exactly 17. Again, no voicemails. No messages. When she told her roommate, Jenna, about it, they both laughed it off. "Probably some scammer with a broken dialer," Jenna said. "Or maybe a desperate ex." Leah hadn't dated anyone in almost a year. And the last guy. He didn't even have her current number. Still, just to be cautious, she changed her number. The calls stopped, for 3 days. Then, they started again. Same pattern. 17 missed calls. This time, at night. It happened while she slept. When she woke up, her call log was filled. Same time frame. All from private number. No way to trace it. But that wasn't the worst part. At the bottom of the call log, there was a new entry, a photo. A blurry image sent through a messaging app she never used. It was of her, sleeping in bed. Taken from outside the window. Her stomach turned. She called the police, shaking, barely able to get the words out. Officers came, inspected the area, and checked her phone. There were no fingerprints on the window, no evidence of forced entry, and no leads from the number. They installed a temporary patrol in the area and advised her to keep curtains closed and lights on at night. Jenna stayed with her for a few days, just to be safe. Then came the night the photo was sent again, only this time, the angle had changed. It was from inside the room. The police treated it seriously now. They suspected hacking, maybe a stalker using a hidden camera. They swept the apartment, checked for bugs. Nothing. Leah changed her locks. Got a new phone. Even installed security cameras. The calls stopped again. But on the seventh night, one of the cameras caught something. At 3:06 a.m., a figure appeared at the end of the hallway outside her bedroom. The man was tall. Skinny. Wearing a mask, not a ski mask or anything tactical. Just a plain, white, blank face. He stood still for 5 full minutes. Then turned toward the bedroom door, leaned forward, and whispered something, barely audible in the footage. 17 syllables. S-17, calls, and, still, no, ans where. Then he walked back into the darkness. No entry point. No exit captured. Just a glitchy flicker where he vanished, like the tape itself rejected him. The police reviewed it but claimed the footage had been corrupted. Leah moved out the next day, disappeared off social media, and never gave her new number to anyone except family. Still, every now and then, she checks her phone at night. And once in a while. There they are again. 17 missed calls. From nowhere. Tyler never believed in ghost stories. He was a practical guy, engineering student, rational thinker, everything had an explanation. That's why when he took a part-time job as the overnight desk clerk at the Ridgewood Motel, he wasn't worried. Even when the manager half-jokingly warned him, if the phone rings from room 209 don't answer it. Tyler laughed. Why? The manager just shrugged. No one checks into that room anymore. Long story. Just let it ring. Tyler assumed it was just some old motel myth, a way to mess with the new guy. He worked the first few nights without incident. Quiet. Boring, mostly. Sometimes truckers came in late. Sometimes people didn't want receipts. But room 209. It stayed dark. Door always locked. No key on the rack. Until the third night. It was 2:17 a.m. The lobby was silent, lit by the blue glow of the vending machine. Tyler was half asleep at the desk when the phone rang. Line 7. Room 209. He stared at it. It rang again. He hesitated, remembering what the manager had said, then picked up. Front desk, he said. Nothing. Just faint static. Then, a click. He hung up. 5 minutes later, it rang again. He answered, annoyed. Hello. This time, a voice whispered. raspy. He's not gone. Tyler blinked. Excuse me. Click. He went down the hall, against better judgment. Room 209 was halfway down the west wing. The door looked like the others, beige paint, brass handle, but the air around it felt colder. He knocked. No answer. He tried the handle. Locked. He turned to walk away, and the phone rang again. His cell phone this time. Unknown number. He answered it. Don't knock again. Tyler whipped around. The hallway was empty. He bolted back to the front desk and sat there until dawn, eyes on the camera feed. Room 209 stayed dark. Motionless. The next day, he asked the manager again. What happened in that room? The manager frowned. A guy checked in 6 months ago. Quiet. Paid cash. Never checked out. Cleaning lady found him 3 days later, sitting upright in the chair, eyes open, TV on static. No signs of trauma. Just, gone. Tyler tried to quit the next week, but shifts were short-staffed. He agreed to stay one more night. That night, room 209's TV turned on by itself. The cameras caught it. Flickering static. No one had entered the room. No power surge. And then, the phone rang again. Line 7. Tyler didn't answer. But the voice still came, through the intercom, the vent, the wall. He's not gone. And now you're next. He quit the next morning, keys still in hand. But last month, Tyler got a text from an unknown number. A photo. Of room 209's door. Wide open. And someone inside, sitting in the chair. Smiling. Chloe was just trying to save some money. Her old laptop had finally died, and a brand new one wasn't in the budget. So when she found a lightly used MacBook listed on Craigslist for $150, she messaged the seller right away. They met in the parking lot of a busy strip mall. The guy was clean-cut, polite, probably mid-30s. Said his name was Ben. He had the original box, charger, even the receipt. Chloe checked it over, turned it on, everything looked legit. He smiled and said, "Hope it serves you well." She didn't think about him again after that. Not until the camera turned on by itself. It was around 2 a.m., 2 weeks later. Chloe was half asleep watching YouTube in bed when the green light above her webcam flicked on. She froze. She hadn't clicked anything. No app was open. She slammed the screen shut. The light stayed on for 2 more seconds. Then clicked off. Chloe took it into a tech-savvy friend the next day. He ran a scan and found a hidden program, something buried deep in the system files. A remote access tool. Someone had been watching her. She was horrified. Her friend wiped the laptop, reinstalled everything fresh. She reported the Craigslist seller's number and email, but both were dead ends. Burner accounts. But then it escalated. The next night, a text arrived while she was brushing her teeth. Purple tank top. Cute. She stared at the message. She was wearing a purple tank top. Alone in her apartment. Curtains drawn. The next one came seconds later. You looked scared when the camera light came on. She called the police. They told her to change all passwords, factory reset every device. They filed a report but warned it'd be hard to trace. She did everything they said. But the messages didn't stop. Nice smile. I like the way you bite your lip when you're nervous. You shouldn't have wiped the laptop. I made copies. That night, her doorbell rang. She lived on the second floor. Gated complex. No visitors after 10 p.m. She looked through the peephole. No one was there. Then, another message. Don't worry, I'll come back when you're asleep. Chloe slept at a friend's place for the next week. When she returned home to grab a few things, she found her front door slightly ajar, though she knew she had locked it. On the coffee table, someone had left a single printed photo. It was a frame from her webcam. She was asleep in bed. The timestamp read 3:12 a.m. Someone had been inside. She moved out the next day, changed her number, and deleted all social media. But the messages resumed a month later, from a new number. This new place doesn't get as much light. You should smile more. I miss that. She never used Craigslist again. And she covers every webcam she sees, with tape, with cloth, even stickers. But some nights, she swears she still hears a click from her laptop. And feels watched. Ellie never locked the bathroom door. She lived alone in a studio apartment on the 5th floor. The building was old but charming, with creaky floors, narrow staircases, and the kind of neighbors who minded their own business. For 2 years, it had been peaceful. Until the night she noticed the curtain move. She had just stepped out of the shower. Steam filled the room, fogging the mirror. She reached for her towel, glanced at the bathtub, and froze. The shower curtain had shifted. She always kept it fully drawn to one side. Always. But now it hung awkwardly, as if something heavy was tugging at the fabric from inside the tub. She stood still, water dripping from her hair. Then, the curtain twitched again. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She walked backward, one step at a time, out of the bathroom, down the hallway, to the kitchen, where she grabbed a knife. Her heart pounded. Every instinct told her to call someone. But something else, something colder, told her she needed to see what was behind that curtain. She crept back down the hall. The curtain was now fully closed. She hadn't touched it. She lifted the knife. And yanked it open. Nothing. Just white porcelain. No one inside. Nothing behind it. She checked under the sink. The cabinet. Nothing. She locked her windows. Bolted her door. Told herself she was imagining things. Until the next night. She was brushing her teeth when she noticed it again, the curtain was closed. She had left it open. This time, she called her friend Michael to come stay the night. He arrived 20 minutes later with a baseball bat and skepticism. They checked the whole apartment. Nothing. No signs of a break-in. But at 3:11 a.m., Michael woke her up, pale and sweating. I heard someone in the bathroom, he whispered. They both crept toward the door. The light was off. The curtain was closed. Michael opened the door fast, flipped the switch. No one. But something was there. A handprint. Pressed into the mirror. Long fingers. Smeared like someone had dragged them downward. But neither of them had been in there. They didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Ellie packed a bag and left for her parents' place. She stayed a week. When she came back to grab more clothes, everything seemed fine. Until she opened the fridge. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It showed her, standing in the bathroom, brushing her teeth. The image was taken from behind the curtain. She moved out that day. Didn't take anything with her. A month later, the landlord called, confused. New tenants had reported weird noises coming from the bathroom. Whispers. Breathing. And once, a figure standing behind the curtain. When the landlord checked, he found another Polaroid in the medicine cabinet. This time, it was of the new tenant, asleep in bed. The angle. From inside the bathroom. When Marcus moved into his new apartment, he noticed something odd right away. The old box TV in the living room only worked on one channel, channel 3. No matter what buttons he pressed, no matter how he adjusted the antenna, it always flickered back to the same static-filled screen. No image. No sound. Just shifting black and white noise. He didn't think much of it. It was an old TV, maybe left behind by the last tenant. He planned to toss it, but it was heavy, and for now, he just left it unplugged in the corner. That is, until it turned itself on at 2:17 a.m. Marcus was jolted awake by a soft humming. At first, he thought it was coming from the street. But as he walked into the living room, he saw the TV glowing, screen alive with static. He hadn't plugged it in. The cord was still wrapped around the back. Yet there it was, buzzing softly. Channel 3. Then, the sound began. Faint. Like someone whispering, beneath the static. He leaned closer. A shape began to form in the noise. Just for a second, a silhouette. A person. Or something else. He blinked, and it was gone. He yanked the TV away from the wall and threw a towel over it. The next morning, the towel was on the floor, and the screen was shattered. But there were handprints on the inside of the glass. He trashed it immediately. But then the emails started. From an address he didn't recognize, watch.channel3@*. No body text. Just blurry image attachments. Static. A shape. Closer each time. One night, after receiving the fifth image, he finally zoomed in. It was a face. Long. Hollow. No eyes. Just a mouth. Wide open, frozen in what looked like a scream. He deleted the email, blocked the address. The following night, his laptop turned itself on. Channel 3. Streaming live. He shut it, heart racing. Unplugged everything. Then came the knock on the door. Soft. Rhythmic. 3 taps. He peeked through the peephole. Nothing. Just darkness. When he opened the door, a note had been slid under it. In red ink, it read. You've seen me now. I can't go back. He called the building manager. Asked about the last tenant. The guy hesitated before telling him that the apartment had sat empty for over a year. Last occupant was a quiet man who never left the place. When the building staff finally entered, they found him sitting in front of the TV, eyes wide, frozen, watching static on Channel 3. Autopsy said heart failure. But they found scratch marks all over his legs and arms, like he had tried to claw something off of him. Marcus moved out the next day. But every so often, in the middle of the night, his phone lights up with a notification. New stream, Channel 3 is live now. And he doesn't dare look. Sarah lived on the 11th floor of a high-rise in downtown Chicago. Her unit had a small balcony that overlooked the city, one of the reasons she'd chosen the place. Up that high, the air was quiet, the traffic just a distant hum. Peaceful. Safe. At least, she thought it was. One night in October, she came home from dinner with friends. It was late. The wind was picking up, a storm in the distance. She stepped out onto her balcony for some fresh air before bed. And that's when she saw him. A man. Standing on the balcony of the unit directly across from hers. Not doing anything. Just standing there. Perfectly still. No phone. No smoke. Just staring. She gave a polite nod and turned away, a little creeped out. But when she glanced back before going in, he was gone. She hadn't heard a door slide. No footsteps. Nothing. The next night, he was there again. Same position. Same silence. Just watching. This time, she stayed inside. She closed the curtains. But she could feel it, that unshakable sense that someone was watching her. Like a weight behind the glass. She decided to ask her neighbor about it in the morning. Only, when she checked, the apartment across from hers was empty. Had been for months. The building manager confirmed it. No one's lived there since spring. That place is sealed up tight. Sarah laughed nervously. Well, someone was definitely on the balcony last night. The manager frowned. That's impossible. There's no access to the balcony unless you go through the unit. That night, she triple-locked her doors. Pulled her curtains shut. Slept with the hallway light on. At 3:08 a.m., she woke up. Something had triggered her motion sensor light, the one on her own balcony. She grabbed her phone and crept toward the window, heart thudding. The curtain shifted slightly with the draft. She pulled it back. There he was. On her balcony this time. Just inches from the glass. Face pale, pressed to the sliding door. His eyes were black, not just dark, but black like ink. And he was smiling. She stumbled back and screamed. When she looked again, he was gone. The light outside flickered, then shut off. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The police arrived 20 minutes later, searched the apartment, found no sign of forced entry. But the balcony door was unlocked. She knew she had locked it. The next morning, she noticed something new. Scratched into the outside of the sliding glass, nearly invisible unless the sun hit it just right. "Let me in." She moved out 3 days later. 2 weeks after that, a new tenant moved in. She got an email from the building's front desk, asking if she had left anything behind. Attached was a photo. A hand-drawn sketch. Crumpled paper found in the bathroom cabinet. It showed a tall man standing on a balcony. The words underneath read: "He doesn't knock. He waits until you look." Nate had just signed the lease on a cheap one-bedroom apartment in an old Victorian house that had been converted into 4 rental units. It wasn't fancy, but it was quiet. Tucked into a sleepy corner of the neighborhood. Just what he needed after a rough breakup and an exhausting job change. But within a week of moving in, he began to hear things. It started subtly, a faint tapping sound in the walls behind his bed. At first, he thought it was the plumbing, or maybe rats. But pest control didn't find anything. And the sounds only got stranger. Soft thuds. Scratches. Then, one night, a knock. 3 slow knocks, from inside the wall. He laughed it off at first. told himself the old house was just settling. Until the night his phone rang at 1:46 a.m. The caller ID just said unknown. When he answered, the line was filled with static. But beneath it, a whisper. "You're not alone." Nate hung up, heart pounding. The next night, the same call came, same time, same whisper. But this time, the voice said, "I hear you breathing." He blocked the number, but it didn't stop. The calls kept coming from different spoofed numbers. And always at the same time. 1:46 a.m. He started sleeping with the TV on. Anything to drown out the silence. But the worst moment came 3 nights later. He was brushing his teeth when the lights flickered. Then, all at once, every faucet in the apartment turned on. Hot water. Scalding. Steam filled the air, thick and suffocating. Through it, in the mirror, he saw something move behind him. A shadow. Tall. Gaunt. Standing in the hallway. He spun around. Nothing. But the floorboards were still creaking. He ran outside in just his socks and called the landlord from the sidewalk. The landlord sighed. "Unit 3, right?" "Yeah. You should have told me you were hearing things. That apartment's got a history." "What kind of history?" "Back in the 80s, some guy named Russell lived there. Reclusive. Built all these weird vents and crawl spaces inside the walls. Said he needed them to breathe. When he died, they found hundreds of cassette tapes, just recordings of him whispering nonsense. For hours. Sometimes to himself. Sometimes to someone else." Nate didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he opened the closet where he'd kept his coats. There was a hole behind the coats. A vent. And inside it, wedged between the beams, was a cell phone. An old flip phone. Its screen lit up. 1:46 a.m. incoming call. He slammed the closet shut and never opened it again. When he moved out, he left everything behind. 2 months later, he got a call on his new number. Different phone, different carrier. Blocked ID. He answered, heart in his throat. The voice whispered. "You moved." "I didn't." Jen had just inherited her grandmother's house, a weathered, 2-story place in the quiet hills of Vermont. It had charm, old wallpaper, dusty chandeliers, and that soft scent of cedar and thyme. She took a leave from work to renovate it, clean it up, maybe flip it. The first night there was peaceful, until 2 a.m., when she heard footsteps in the attic. Not mice. Not creaks. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, pacing back and forth directly above her bed. She froze under the covers, every muscle in her body locking up. But she didn't move. Not until sunrise. The next day, she climbed up to the attic with a flashlight and a hammer. Empty. No signs of animals. No footprints. Just dust and the smell of old wood. That night, it happened again. Same time. Same pacing. She called her mom the next morning. "You heard that too when you were a kid," her mom said quietly. "We all did. Your grandmother swore it was the wind, but none of us ever believed her." Jen tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just the wind. Until she found the shoe prints. Bare feet. Dust disturbed in 2 clear tracks, long steps circling the attic floor. And near the corner, something more chilling, her name, written in the dust. Jen. That night, she slept downstairs. But the footsteps followed. This time on the first floor. She barricaded her bedroom door. Hammered nails into the frame. Shoved the dresser in front of it. 2 a.m. 3 knocks on the door. Not loud. But unmistakable. And then, a voice. "You can hear me now, can't you?" She didn't respond. Didn't move. The footsteps went away. The next morning, she drove to the hardware store and bought motion sensors, baby monitors, and a cheap indoor camera system. That night, she sat in the living room with a cup of coffee, watching her phone's security app. At exactly 2 a.m., one camera went black. Then another. Then another. Until only one feed remained, the attic. And on that grainy screen, she saw a figure. Tall, hunched, its face obscured by shadow. Walking in circles. Then it stopped. Turned. Faced the camera. Smiled. The feed cut. She grabbed her keys, ran outside, and drove all the way back to Boston, barefoot, shaking. She never returned to the house. She listed it the next day, sight unseen. Took a loss. Didn't care. 2 weeks later, she got a voicemail from an unknown number. It was faint, full of static, but the voice was unmistakable. "You left the attic door open, Jen." Eli lived alone in a small rental house just outside of Portland. He liked the solitude, quiet nights, no roommates, just him and his routines. He worked nights at the hospital, which meant mornings were for sleep and evenings were for silence. But lately, things had started to feel off. It began with little things. A coffee mug left out when he knew he'd put it away. The bathroom light on when he'd come home. His shampoo bottle moved slightly, just enough to notice. He assumed he was tired. Overworked. Forgetful. Then one night, as he returned from a late shift, something stopped him at the front door. It was unlocked. He was sure he'd locked it that morning. He always did. He stepped inside, cautious. Everything looked normal, except for the smell. Faint. Sweet. Almost like perfume. He didn't wear any. And no one had been over in weeks. He checked every room, knife in hand. Nothing. But as he entered the bathroom, he felt it, the unmistakable presence of being watched. The shower curtain was drawn. Fully closed. He never left it that way. He always left it open. His hands trembled as he reached out. Slowly, he pulled it back. No one. Just the tiled wall. Still damp. Like someone had just taken a shower. Eli didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he installed a cheap indoor camera system. Just one, angled to catch the bathroom and the hallway. For days, nothing happened. Until he reviewed the footage. At 2:42 p.m., the bathroom door opened slowly. No one walked in. But the curtain moved. Just slightly. Then more. Then, a hand. Pale. Thin. Slowly pulling the curtain shut from inside the tub. There was no one else in the house. He checked the rest of the footage, nothing showed the person entering. Nothing showed them leaving. Eli tore the shower curtain down. Slept with the lights on. But the following night, the smell returned. Stronger. Sweet. Powdery. This time, he found long strands of hair in the drain. Not his. And the mirror had fogged up. 4 words were written on the glass. "You finally saw me." The police searched the house top to bottom. No intruder. No evidence of forced entry. No fingerprints. They chalked it up to stress. Suggested therapy. Eli moved out the next day. But the day he left, he took one last look at the bathroom through the empty doorway. There, in the tub, was a brand new shower curtain. Drawn shut. And just as he turned away, it moved, not a breeze, not a draft, like someone was standing behind it. Waiting. It was supposed to be a fresh start. Becca had just gotten out of a bad relationship and moved into a new apartment on the outskirts of Denver, a 2-bedroom unit on the 2nd floor of an older building. Not perfect, but quiet. Affordable. She noticed the man downstairs on her second day. Tall. Dressed in black. Always standing just inside the main entry hallway. Never speaking. Never leaving. Just standing. Facing the front doors, like he was waiting for someone. The first time she passed him, she smiled and said hi. He didn't blink. Didn't even turn his head. She laughed it off, maybe he was hard of hearing, or just unfriendly. But something about him unsettled her. A week later, he was still there. Same clothes. Same posture. Same silence. She asked her neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Vega, if she knew him. Mrs. Vega's face changed. Her hand instinctively touched the rosary around her neck. "There's no man downstairs, Maja." Becca blinked. "He's there every night. By the door. No one's lived in that unit since last fall. Not since what happened." "What happened?" Mrs. Vega hesitated. "A man. He was stalking a woman who lived on the 3rd floor. Used to wait for her in the hallway at night. She reported him, but nothing was ever done. One night, she just vanished. Police searched everything. No signs of struggle. But the man was gone, too." Becca asked if there were any photos. Mrs. Vega nodded slowly, went into her apartment, and returned with a printed flyer, a grainy, black and white image. Becca's stomach dropped. It was him. Same black coat. Same posture. Same face. She called the building manager, demanded they check the downstairs unit. It was empty. No furniture. No lights. Dust covered. No sign anyone had entered it in months. That night, she avoided the hallway. Took the back stairs instead. But at 2:13 a.m., her doorbell rang. She froze. Checked the peephole. No one. Then she noticed it, a small piece of paper, slid under the door. Just one sentence, written in crooked, uneven letters. "Why won't you say hi anymore?" The handwriting was familiar. Because it was hers. Written in her own handwriting. Exactly. The police came. Took a report. But there were no fingerprints. No footage. The hallway camera had mysteriously glitched for exactly 6 minutes. That night, she dreamed of him, standing in her hallway, just past the door. Not trying to enter. Just waiting. As if time didn't apply to him. When she woke up, the same note was back under her door. Only now, it said. "Don't make me come in." It was supposed to be a quiet weekend getaway, just 2 nights in a cabin near the edge of Black Hollow Forest. Liam and Cassie had rented the place off an obscure site that promised no cell signal, no distractions, just nature. The cabin was rustic. No internet. No electricity except for a loud old generator. But peaceful. Secluded. Cassie noticed the figure first. Late that first night, she was brushing her teeth and looked out the bathroom window into the pitch-dark woods. Just beyond the edge of the tree line stood a person. Motionless. Facing the cabin. At first she thought it was a tree, a dark shape in the shadows. But then it moved. Slowly. Tilting its head. Watching. She told Liam, but by the time he checked, the figure was gone. Probably a hunter, he said. Or someone camping nearby. They locked the doors. Pulled the blinds. Tried to forget about it. The next morning, they found boot prints around the cabin. Deep, fresh, circling the structure in wide loops. No other tracks. No signs of entry. Just, wandering. Like someone had spent the night pacing. Waiting. The prints led to the woods, but stopped abruptly after 20 feet. No trail. No broken branches. As if the person had just vanished into the ground. That evening, they kept the fire burning. Stayed inside. Around 10 p.m., they heard a knock at the back door. Not loud. Just 3 soft taps. Liam froze. There were no neighbors for miles. "Who is it?" he called. No answer. Cassie checked the peephole. No one. But as she turned to walk away, her phone, which had no service all day, buzzed once. A single notification. Image received. From an unknown number. She opened it. It was a photo of her, taken from behind, standing at the back door, looking through the peephole. She dropped the phone. The lights went out. The generator had died. And outside, footsteps began circling the cabin again, fast this time, erratic, like someone running just out of view. Liam grabbed a flashlight and shone it through the window. For a moment, they saw nothing. Then, 2 eyes. Reflecting in the dark. Low to the ground. Unblinking. The figure crawled forward. Not walking, crawling on hands and knees. Fast. They slammed the shutters closed, locked every door, and barricaded themselves in the bedroom. No sleep. Just waiting. At dawn, the forest was silent again. They ran to the car and drove away, gravel flying under their tires. Liam filed a report. But when rangers went back to investigate, the cabin was empty. No tracks. No boot prints. No sign anyone had ever been there, not even Liam and Cassie. But Cassie kept the photo. And when she looked at it days later, she noticed something new. A figure, behind her reflection in the window. Inside the cabin. Tall. Grinning. In 2019, Ava worked night shifts as a front desk clerk at a small hotel off Interstate 74, mostly truckers, salespeople, and the occasional drifter passing through. The building was outdated but clean, and the nights were usually uneventful. Except for room 209. The room had been out of order for over a year. Water damage, they said. But Ava had never seen any maintenance being done. The lights inside were always off. The door always locked. No one went in. No one came out. Still, every couple of weeks, she'd get a call. Always around 3 a.m. Always from room 209. At first, she thought it was a glitch in the system. She'd pick up the phone, and there'd be only silence. But one night, she heard something. A faint whisper. A woman's voice. "Help me." She froze. Asked who it was. But the line went dead. She checked the computer. Room 209 was still marked unoccupied. Ava called her manager, who brushed it off. "It's an old phone system. Ghost calls. Happens sometimes." But the calls kept coming. And the voice grew clearer. "Please don't let him in. He's coming back. He watches from the vent." Each night, a different plea. One night, unable to shake the feeling, Ava grabbed the master key card and went up to the second floor. She stood in front of 209, heart pounding. The light above the door flickered. She slid the key. Green light. Click. She opened the door slowly. The room was cold. Stale. Sheets yellowed with time. Dust thick on the furniture. But everything else. Normal. Except the vent. It had been unscrewed. Hanging halfway off. And inside, something shined faintly in the flashlight beam. A small camera. Old. Wired. Covered in dust but clearly installed by hand. She called the police. When they arrived, they pulled the vent open and found more, a box behind the wall, stuffed with old videotapes. All labeled by hand. Room 209 June 2006. Room 209 October 2007. Room 209 March 2010. Dozens of them. The tapes showed grainy footage of women, sleeping, dressing, crying. One of them was reported missing in 2008. Another was last seen leaving that same hotel. The man who had worked maintenance in those years had long since disappeared. Never caught. But they believed he had watched from behind the walls. For years. Recording. Waiting. No one could explain the phone calls. The room was sealed off permanently. But sometimes, just before 3 a.m., the front desk phone rings. And if someone's brave enough to pick it up, a whisper still comes through. "He's in the walls." Zoe was a painter. Quiet. Reclusive. She rented a loft in a crumbling building near the edge of the city, the kind of place where the pipes rattled, the heat barely worked, and you had to jiggle the front door to get it to close. She liked it that way. The quiet helped her work. One day, while walking home from the market, she found something on the curb. A tall, antique mirror, cracked along the edge, with an ornate bronze frame shaped like twisting vines. It looked expensive. Forgotten. Too beautiful to leave behind. So she took it upstairs. Hung it in her hallway. That's when things began. It started small, passing reflections that didn't match her movement. Shadows that lingered too long. She'd walk past the mirror and catch a second version of herself standing still, unmoving, just behind the glass. At first, she blamed lack of sleep. But one night, she woke to a faint tapping sound. It was coming from the hallway. From the mirror. She stepped closer, heart thudding. Behind the glass, she saw herself. But not quite. This version was smiling, a wide, too white grin, even though Zoe wasn't. And then it raised its hand, and tapped on the inside of the mirror. Tap. 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 She stumbled backward. Flicked the light on. The reflection returned to normal. For weeks, she avoided the hallway after dark. Covered the mirror with a blanket. But that didn't stop the dreams. In them, the mirror stood uncovered, glowing faintly. And in it, the reflection of a man, tall, thin, grey-skinned, would slowly walk closer from the black depths of the mirrored world, stopping just behind the glass, watching her sleep. Then, one night, she awoke again to tapping. Louder this time. She approached the mirror, phone in hand. Filmed it. The video showed nothing. No movement. Just static. But when she looked closely at the video later, in the final 2 seconds, there was a face. Inches from the glass. Pale. Unsmiling. She decided to get rid of the mirror. She left it in the alley where she'd found it. Then returned upstairs and locked every door. Relieved. Until she walked down her hallway, and the mirror was there. Hanging exactly where it had always been. The blanket gone. The glass clean. Untouched. And now, in the reflection, her other self wasn't smiling anymore. It was knocking. Desperate. And behind her, in the mirror only, the pale man had moved closer. One hand on her shoulder. But she felt nothing. She covered the mirror again. But each morning, the blanket was pulled off. And the reflection stared. Last night, she posted online, pleading for help. She included one image, a photo of the mirror. And if you zoom in, you'll see her. But just behind her shoulder, something else is there. Smiling. Watching. Ethan never thought much about the little noises in his house, the occasional creak above the ceiling, the muffled thump near the vents. It was an old place. Built in the 60s. Sound traveled weird. But then his snacks started going missing. At first, it was small things, granola bars, soda cans, a sandwich he was sure he'd left in the fridge. He chalked it up to forgetfulness. Maybe he ate it and didn't remember. But one night, he noticed something that made his stomach twist. The shower was damp. Steam still hung in the air. But he hadn't used it that day. He lived alone. He checked the doors. All locked. Windows secure. Nothing out of place. Except the attic hatch. It hung slightly ajar. Just an inch. But enough. He grabbed a flashlight, pulled down the ladder, and climbed up, slowly, heart hammering. The attic was dark and dusty. But near the back, in the farthest corner, was a nest of blankets. A pile of wrappers. Empty water bottles. Even a toothbrush. Someone had been living up there. Quietly. Carefully. Undetected. He backed down the ladder and called the police. They searched the attic and found a trapdoor on the roof, leading to a crawl space Ethan didn't know existed. But no sign of the intruder. Just signs that he, or she, had been there recently. And then came the photos. They started arriving in his mailbox 2 days later. No return address. No stamps. Just envelopes. Inside, photos of himself, asleep in bed. Sitting on the couch. Working on his laptop. All taken from inside the house. One, in particular, chilled him to the core. It showed him brushing his teeth, standing at the mirror. But in the reflection, there was someone else. A figure in the hallway, crouched low behind him, just out of sight. Face half lit. Eyes wide. He gave the photos to the police. Installed cameras. Moved to a friend's apartment for a few weeks. The recordings caught nothing. Until the third night. At 2:41 a.m., the hallway camera picked up movement. A figure, barefoot, descending silently from the attic ladder. He wore Ethan's clothes. Moved like he'd lived there his whole life. He walked to the kitchen. Took a bottle of water. Stood at the foot of the couch for over 2 minutes, just staring at the empty cushions. Then turned to face the camera. And smiled. Authorities searched again. Found nothing. No fingerprints. No name. Just silence. Ethan moved out the next day. But sometimes, when he lies awake in his new apartment, he swears he hears the ceiling creak. And the sound of someone breathing. Clara was walking home from her shift at the cafe. It had rained that evening, heavy, soaking rain, but now it had stopped, leaving the streets slick and glistening under the amber glow of the street lamps. That's when she noticed him. Standing across the street. Holding a bright yellow umbrella. He didn't move. Just stared. At first, she thought nothing of it. People waited for rides. Or smoked. Or spaced out. But then he appeared again the next night. Same corner. Same yellow umbrella, even though it wasn't raining. She crossed to the other side, testing it. He didn't follow. Just turned to face her again. That happened for 6 nights straight. And then, one evening, she got home to find a wet footprint in her hallway. Just one. In the center of the carpet. She lived alone. Shaken, she checked every room. Every lock. Nothing. All secure. She told a co-worker the next day, who half joked, maybe it's the umbrella guy. He looks like he's out of a ghost story. Clara laughed it off. Sort of. That night, she stayed late, hoping he'd be gone by the time she got home. He wasn't. Now, he was on her side of the street. Closer. Still staring. Still unmoving. This time, she turned on her phone camera and snapped a photo. But when she looked at the image, he wasn't there. Just the empty sidewalk. No figure. No umbrella. She turned around. He was still there. That night, she woke to the sound of dripping. Not a faucet. Slower. More rhythmic. Coming from the living room. She stepped out. And found the yellow umbrella leaning against her front door. Wet. Still dripping onto the welcome mat. She grabbed it with a dish towel, tossed it in the hallway trash chute, locked the door again, and barely slept. In the morning, it was back. Propped against the doorframe. Dry this time. But open. The inside lining was covered in small writing, dozens of lines, repeating the same thing. Let me in, Clara. Let me in. She moved out the next day. Stayed with her sister in a different city. Weeks passed. No sign of him. No yellow umbrellas. Until last night. She went to take out the trash at her sister's building. And there, at the end of the street, stood a man. Still. Watching. A yellow umbrella in hand. But now, he was holding two. Maya had just moved into a new apartment on the 3rd floor of an old brick building in the city. She loved the character of the place, creaky wooden floors, stained glass windows, and a fire escape that overlooked a quiet alley. It was cozy. Safe. Until the whispers started. It began the first night. She was lying in bed, scrolling through her phone, when she heard it, a faint, breathy voice, like someone whispering just outside her window. She looked up. The window was closed. No one was there. She told herself it was the wind. But every night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., the whispering returned. Soft words, indistinct. Almost like a prayer. Maya started recording the sounds on her phone. When she played it back, she could make out a few words. "Come, outside, please." Terrified, she taped cardboard over the window and installed a small motion sensor light on the fire escape. The next night, the whispers stopped. But new sounds appeared. Knocks. Soft tapping on the window. On the fire escape railing. One night, she saw a shadow dart just outside, caught between the glow of the street lamp and the darkness of the alley. She called the building manager. He shrugged. "No one's lived in that alley building for years. It's condemned." She reported it to the police. They found footprints on the fire escape ladder. Small. Bare feet. But when officers climbed the ladder to investigate, there was nothing. No sign of anyone. No fingerprints. No footprints on the ground. Just the faint smell of cigarette smoke. Then, one night, Maya woke to a knock. 3 slow taps. At her door. She checked the peephole. No one. But taped to the door was a note. "I see you. I wait. Soon." Maya moved out the next day. But sometimes, when the wind is just right, she swears she hears whispering, soft, cold, waiting. Jason never believed in stalkers. Or ghosts. Or the kind of horror stories people told late at night. Until it happened to him. It started with a knock. Late at night. Sharp. Precise. 3 times. He was home alone, the house silent except for the rain tapping on the windows. He checked the clock, 2:33 a.m. At the door, no one. No footsteps. No car. Nothing. Then, the knocks returned. Night after night. 3 sharp taps at exactly the same time. Jason installed cameras. Alarm systems. New locks. Each night, the cameras caught nothing but empty shadows. But the knocking didn't stop. One night, Jason answered the door. No one. Only a single note slipped under the door. It read. "You see me. I see you. But you can't hide." Terrified, Jason stayed with a friend. But the knocking followed him. On his friend's door. His car. His office desk. No one else heard it. No one else saw anything. Just Jason. One night, in his new apartment, the knocks came again, louder this time. He opened the door to a dim hallway. Empty. But standing in the shadows was a figure, tall, dark, silent. Jason blinked. And the figure vanished. The knocking stopped after that night. But Jason never forgot the sound. 3 sharp taps. Waiting just outside. Watching. Dear listener, thank you for watching. If these stories sent chills down your spine, please like, share, and subscribe for more true tales that will haunt your dreams. Stay safe, and remember, sometimes, the stranger at the door is closer than you think.